Hello everybody. Welcome back to my next video. Today I'm going to be reading to you from a book that I've had since I was a kid. I'm going to have to push it out a little bit because it is kind of a tall paperback book. This is a book from a set that I've had for a long time. It's one of the sets from the series called The Great Fairy Tales Treasure Chest. It's from the 4th set. It's book 4 of the 4th set as well. Now, if you know me, you know I love fairy tales. And, I also like some of the more obscure ones. This particular one, I'm gonna try to explain what Great Fairy Tales Treasure Chest is. They basically took, this guy, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Peter Holeone, I really hope I pronounced it right, wrote down his own, texts of the fairy tales that I guess he knew, and they were published in a collection of hardcover books in Italy in the 80s, the late 80s, and illustrated by various artists, mainly Tony Wolfe, which was the pen name for Antonio Lipatelli, and also another illustrator was Piero Cattaneo. I hope I pronounced that right. But then later in the 90s, the pictures and text from those hardcover books were also published in paperback sets called Great Fairy Tales Treasure Chest, and these were also translated into English around those times as well, because they were originally Italian. I don't know if maybe I confused you. I do want to make another video later, more talking about the Great Fairy Tales Treasure Chest, because there is a very, very highly interesting and kind of funny thing from my childhood that might keep you entertained involving these books. But basically, you know I love fairy tales. And one of them, which is more obscure, I've never ever seen it published anywhere except in Peter Holeone's books, the Great Fairy Tales Treasure Chest, and the hardcover books by the same publisher, translated into English and published in Canada, I believe. I'm not Canadian, but I believe this was a Canadian publication when it was translated into English. I don't know if it'll say in the back, actually. No, it doesn't. Okay. Anyway, this story I'm going to read today is called Dopey, Dennis. And it's a very, very kind of funny little fairy tale. I guess obscure because I've never seen it anywhere else except in this book. It's possible that the publisher just made it up for this specific series, but considering it's supposed to be fairy tales, I'm not so sure. But it's one of the funnier tales, I think. I thought you guys might get a kick out of it too. One thing to keep note, I don't know how long this, if this video will stay up on YouTube. I don't know if I'll get copyright struck. I'm testing it. Since these books are more obscure, I don't see that happening. But since they aren't in the public domain, they are still copyrighted. It's possible I might have to take this down at some point, but I thought you guys might enjoy it now. So, here we go. Dopey Dennis. Once upon a time, there was a little boy called Dennis. Everyone called him Dopey because, well, you will see why. Dennis lived with his mother in a nice house with a courtyard, a vegetable plot, a cellar, and a hen run. One day, his mother had to go to market. "Dennis, watch over the hen. She's sitting on her eggs. I don't want anything to bother her. And don't mess up the house. When his mother had gone, Dennis got a stick and sat watching the hen run. The hen came out of the hen house to stretch her legs. Get back on those eggs, cried Dennis, alarmed. The hen just clucked, and Dennis tried to make her go back by tapping her with the stick. To his horror, the poor hen keeled right over, stone dead. Oh dear, the eggs will get cold, gasped Dennis. He sat on top of them and crunch! He broke them all. Dennis was terrified of what his mother would say. Perhaps she wouldn't be too angry if he cooked dinner for her. He plucked and cleaned the dead hen and set it on the spit to roast. I'll get a jug of good wine for her, said Dennis to himself. He ran to the cellar and opened the tap on the red wine barrel. While the wine was pouring out, he heard a dreadful noise in the kitchen. What can that be? He wondered, and he ran upstairs, forgetting to turn off the wine tap. As Dennis ran into the kitchen, he saw the cat with the roast chicken in its jaws. Put that hen down, shrieked the boy. He picked up a rolling pin. What a chase! The cat ran from room to room with Dennis close behind. They bumped into the furniture, knocking it over and smashing dishes. Finally, the cat dropped the roast and jumped out the window. Dennis put the chicken on the table and went to get the wine jug. Alas, the cellar floor was flooded with red wine. Mother will be furious, wailed poor Dennis. Somehow, he had to get the wine mopped up. He thought and thought. At last, he remembered how his mother mixed flour with water to make a paste. He dragged a bag of flour from the kitchen and dumped it onto the cellar floor. Not enough, he said. Before long, he had spread not one, but 5 bags of flour in the cellar. The floor was covered with a reddish, sticky paste. Dennis walked over it to get the jug of wine and tramped back upstairs, leaving red footprints everywhere. Dennis felt his mother would be pleased to find dinner ready. However, when he looked around at the broken china and the red footprints, he began to have doubts. Perhaps she might give him a terrible scolding, or even a spanking. The only thing Dennis could think of was to hide. He climbed into the stone-cold oven and curled up in the dark. An hour later, his mother came home. What a sight greeted her eyes! Upset furniture, broken plates, red footprints, and a half-eaten chicken on the dining table. Dennis! She screamed, suddenly frightened. A faint whimpering came from the kitchen. She ran to look and hauled Dennis out of the oven by the legs. I'm not surprised you're hiding, said the exasperated woman. She decided to send Dennis to sell a roll of cloth while she cleaned up the mess. When Dennis reached the market, some women clustered around, asking questions about the cloth. Dennis found it too confusing. You're just a lot of chatterboxes, he said, and marched off. He passed by a statue and mistook it for a fine gentleman. Sir, would you like to buy this fine cloth? Yes? No? The statue said nothing, but Dopey Dennis took this as a sign of approval. He placed the cloth at the foot of the statue and went home. Mother, a fine gentleman has the cloth. How much did he give you for it? Asked the mother eagerly. Dennis's face fell. He had forgotten to ask for money. Back he ran, but the cloth was gone. My mother wants the money for her cloth, said Dennis, but the statue said nothing. Dennis repeated his request and began to get angry. Finally, he lost his temper and gave the statue a whack on the head. To his surprise, the head rolled to the ground, spilling a handful of gold coins. Dennis picked up the coins, thinking this was the payment. With a polite apology, he put the head back in place and ran home. "Who gave you such a good price?" asked Dennis's mother. "The grand gentleman. He didn't speak." "And he kept his money in his head," exclaimed the boy. "Dennis, you killed the hen, broke the eggs, flooded the cellar with wine, wasted 5 bags of flour, smashed the dishes, upset the furniture, and left red footprints everywhere. If you think you can pull my leg as well, you're badly mistaken. Go and weed the vegetable patch," cried the angry mother. Grabbing a broom, she chased him out of the house. Dennis sat down on the doorstep, instead of going to the vegetable patch. His exasperated mother grabbed the first thing near at hand and hurled it at him. It was a basket of dried figs and raisins. "Mother! Mother!" called the boy. "It's raining dried figs and raisins!" Dennis's mother slammed the door in desperation. Dennis went about telling folk he had a lot of gold coins. At last the magistrate sent for him and asked where he had found the coins. "A gentleman gave them to me as payment for a roll of cloth," said Dennis. "What gentleman?" asked the magistrate severely. "The one who is always standing at the corner of the town square," replied the boy. But that's a statue!" The magistrates gaped at one another. "Tell us, Dennis, when did this happen?" "On the day it rained dried figs and raisins," answered Dennis. Again the magistrates exchanged looks, but this time they shrugged their shoulders. Dopey. That was their verdict. But they were too polite to say it out loud. Dennis ran home to his mother, who gave him a big hug. Despite all the mishaps, she knew he had tried to do his best, and she loved him just the same. Very funny story. Part of the genre, fairy tale type of the fool who becomes rich completely by accident. Very entertaining story. I can't wait to tell you the thing from my childhood regarding these books at some point in the near future, very near future. So yeah, tell me what you thought of the story, and I will see you next time.